While Donald Trump declares war on the mainstream media again, accusing it of teaming up with Hillary Clinton's campaign, according to WikiLeaks, for what he calls now the greatest coordinated attack in political history. Does he have a case? We have it straight ahead.
And Hillary Clinton's campaign just added more groups to the basket of deplorables. Get ready for this. And there's a good chance you're in that basket now. Wait until you hear what the latest batch leaked out. I had to reflect for a second. Now I'm back. Mornings are better with friends. It's most insightful, and Kirk Cameron will be here. Kirk's got a great new movie. Got to get him to weigh in on actually one of our lead stories today, and that is what leaked out about Catholics and the Clintons.
Yeah. They want to change the Catholic Church because they're in the Stone Ages.
You know, It's only been around for 2,000 years.
Right. Let's
Something
stop
like
confession.
Now, in that cold open, did you black out for just a second?
I just thought about, I was going to add something, and I said, I edited myself. And I just stopped.
You know what? That's probably a good thing.
You know what? Anytime I don't say something, I don't really regret it.
I like your inflection. Use the latest, Aleppo.
Right. You know why? I had to go to speech in 3rd grade for my L's.
Really?
Because my tongue would not lift up and touch the roof of my mouth.
Well, you're doing a fine job now.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Your teacher would be proud.
Did you just hit her in the leg?
Was that wrong?
And then,
Was that
and then my
wrong?
leg went like that, just like the doctor's office.
Keep thinking we're on the same team.
Okay.
And that's how I would.
Meanwhile, let's talk politics and get right to the race for the White House. 26 days before we're all voting and the counting the votes, the Trump campaign is declaring war on the New York Times.
And now threatening to sue, accusing the paper of heading up the biggest coordinated political attack in history.
Yep, Peter Ducey is live outside Trump Tower in New York City with more. Peter.
Good morning, Brian. 2 women now say they've each got a story that contradicts Donald Trump's claim that locker room talk with Billy Bush never actually escalated into anything physical. One woman tells the New York Times that Trump put the moves on her here at Trump Tower in 2005. Another says that he made move on her in the first-class cabin of an airplane 3 decades ago, telling the Times, quote, "He was like an octopus, his hands were everywhere." With that airplane incident, flight staff were apparently never notified, neither were the police, and there isn't any kind of an official record of the 2005 incident either. Because of that, a Trump lawyer has now drafted a letter that we just saw demanding a retraction from the Times. He accuses them in this letter of libel and of not vetting these stories that could tarnish Trump's reputation. The campaign also thinks the New York Times is trying to help Hillary. Spokesman Jason Miller says, quote, "The Times story buries the pro-Clinton financial and social media activity on behalf of Hillary Clinton's candidacy, reinforcing that this truly is nothing more than a political attack. This is a sad day for the Times." And before this news even broke, Donald Trump was hitting a similar note, complaining that embarrassing revelations contained in hacked emails from Hillary's top staffers, including slights against Catholics, were being ignored.
WikiLeaks stuff is unbelievable. It tells you the inner heart. You got to read it. And you got to maybe get it because they're not putting it out. They want to put it out, but they can't do that because without the media and without the press, Hillary Clinton would be nothing. She'd be nothing. Zero.
And Trump isn't just fighting with the media. He's also continuing his battle with this House Speaker Paul Ryan, accusing Ryan yesterday of not really wanting to beat Hillary Clinton. So Donald Trump has a lot going on. We expect to hear a lot more about it at 2 swing state rallies today, Florida and Ohio. Back to you across town.
All right, Peter, thank you very much. And if you're watching the mainstream media or reading the papers today, the story about the 2 women in the New York Times, it's interesting, though. The left is now interested in these women who have made these accusations against Donald Trump, however, very uninterested in the women who made the allegations against Bill Clinton. And they're in the news as well. Juanita Broderick, Kathleen Willey, just to name 2.
Right. So let's see. Does Donald Trump actually have a case? Are these women telling the truth? Judge Napolitano joined Steve a short time ago.
If Trump could prove that the Times acted with, here's a technical phrase, actual malice, which means that the New York Times knew this was wrong and published it anyway, or was reckless in its disregard for whether it was truthful or inaccurate and published it anyway, then he can prevail. That bar is intentionally high because of the language of the First Amendment the courts have ruled, was intended to encourage open, wide, robust, freewheeling, uninhibited debate. You're not sure if it's right, say it anyway, and that's the way we conduct our presidential campaigns.
Well, here's the thing. If Donald Trump were to sue, he wouldn't get justice before the election.
Nope.
And one thing we were talking about, remember back in 2008, New York Times, Washington Post came out with essentially the same story, and it looked coordinated to a lot of people, where John McCain's having an affair with a lobbyist.
Right.
Well, you know, the election came and went. He lost. And then after the election, they settled with the lobbyist. They had some out-of-court settlement. The terms, I don't think, were disclosed. However, the New York Times had to print something that said, you know what, we never meant to infer that they had had an affair, which was exactly what they were trying to do. They were trying to damage him.
Well, people are accusing the Hillary campaign managers of holding on to information and releasing it at the perfect time.
That's politics.
27 days away from this election. And many people are saying that's exactly what happened over at NBC when they released the video of Billy Bush talking on the bus with Donald Trump, that they were holding on to that video.
Yeah, TMZ is reporting this. There's much more to this story. And part of the reason that there is more to that story is because this tape was out earlier. The NBC News knew about this tape. They plan on editing it and sanitizing it to make Billy Bush not look quite as bad, because the only time Billy Bush really looks bad or compromised is when he said something when he left the bus. They were going to edit that out. Instead,
they were going to sanitize it.
When he said, give Donald Trump a hug to the soap opera actress.
They thought that was...
that he was egging him on.
He said, geez, your girl is hot as whatever. So that was not going to make the cut.
No.
So the question is, did NBC actually have this tape before they stumbled onto it last week?
For years.
And we thought about having it Friday. It's 11 years old. When did they actually know about it? Were they timing it to go out? Well, the story that TMZ has said behind the scenes, they were going to all set to release on a Friday. Then comes Hurricane Matthew. They said, we got to stick with the weather coverage. It's a big story. It's going to get buried. So we're going to wait till Monday, at which time somebody at NBC leaked it to the Washington Post. It comes out Friday. It moves Matthew off the air, and it just swamps all the news cycle leading up to the debate.
Right. And so TMZ is talking about how clearly NBC News was timing this to do the maximum damage to Donald Trump. And what's very curious is, even though there was this leak of somebody at Access or NBC News to the Washington Post, they have no interest in finding the leaker. That person's not going to get in trouble.
Well, he was bragging about it allegedly at the Olympics.
Billy.
Exactly, telling the executives that he had this tape. I heard someone say, I bet Jeb Bush is so upset with his nephew because he never told him about the tape.
By the way, I understand about holding stories for maximum exposure. If you have it on Wednesday and you got a 2020 coming up on Friday, you'll keep it for the magazine show. I get that. But to actually have a show, if you had this story in August and left it for October to put your hand on the scale for an election, that is not ethical.
That's Oppo research. I mean, the Democrats have been looking for years to dig up dirt on Donald Trump to dump it right now, between now and November 8th. Same thing with the Republicans. They got Oppo research people. They've been working for years on Hillary Clinton because they've known for years it's going to be her. And now's the time to dump it for maximum damage. Unfortunately for NBC, now we see that that's exactly what they did. Usually we just think it. Now we have proof they did it.
You know, earlier we thought that, according to Hillary Clinton, she walked it back the next day, but she said 50% of Donald Trump's audience is his supporters, his voters, are deplorable and they're unredeemable. Then we find out that that basket's got to get a little bit bigger because Catholics belong in it. 28% of the country is Catholics.
Rednecks.
And rednecks, they belong in it. And somebody else.
Yeah.
Latinos.
Needy
right?
Latinos. Yeah, what happened, there are some, thanks to WikiLeaks, the chair for the Hillary Clinton campaign, John Podesta, sent out an email. We need endorsements from, quote, needy Latinos. For instance, Federico Pena,
a little insecure.
The Hispanic mayor of Denver, things were not good with him because he endorsed Barack Obama. And also Bill Richardson, who back in the day, 2008, also threw Hillary Clinton under the bus and endorsed Barack Obama.
Bill Richardson says this.
No, he says of Bill Richardson.
He says, Bill Richardson, first of all, look at the top of that. Look at the subject. Needy Latinos and one easy call. Bill Richardson, I had heard that you were upset that I encouraged a call between WJC, Bill Clinton, and Richardson to bury the hatchet. Richardson is still on TV a lot, especially on Univision and Telemundo, notwithstanding the fact that he can be a blank. It was worth getting him in a good place.
Yeah, so they had a talk. Eventually, he talked to the former president, Bill Clinton. They mended fences, and then he did 2 days later go ahead and endorse Hillary Clinton. But nonetheless, for Podesta to say needy Latinos, we got to get their endorsements. It doesn't look good for
Right, just to alienate everybody, I guess it doesn't really matter.
Milk in their eyes after being pepper sprayed. The protest got out of hand when police told them to leave so the city council could vote on a new police contract.
Turning now to the race for the White House, 26 days, and the Trump campaign is declaring war on the New York Times, threatening to sue, accusing them of heading up the biggest coordinated political attack in history. Garrett Tenney joins us now live from Washington with more on that story. Good morning, Garrett.
Heather, good morning. This is really just a new chapter of the same story. We've seen throughout this election, Donald Trump has bashed the New York Times for being against him, and that's what we're continuing to hear after this latest report that came out last night, in which 2 women claimed they were once groped by Trump. One of the women claims that more than 30 years ago, Trump began touching her inappropriately during a flight to New York City. The other woman claims she was working as a receptionist at Trump Tower 11 years ago when she met Trump outside an elevator and introduced herself before he kissed her on the cheeks and then on the mouth. Neither of the women pressed charges, and neither has spoken publicly about the incidents since they occurred. The Trump campaign is aggressively pushing back against this report, though, and is threatening to sue the New York Times. In a statement, campaign senior advisor Jason Miller says, in part, it is absurd to think that one of the most recognizable business leaders on the planet with a strong record of empowering women in his companies would do the things alleged in this story. And for this to only become public decades later in the final month of a campaign for president should say it all. Last night at a rally in Florida, Donald Trump himself bashed the mainstream media for blatantly targeting him while ignoring the seemingly growing number of scandals coming from Hillary Clinton.
These dishonest people, mainstream media, they don't talk about this. They don't talk about this. Now, if I sneeze, if Donald Trump sneezes today, it's a major story.
Now, part of the reason the Trump campaign is pushing back so hard on this report is that it comes on the heels of the leaked video from Access Hollywood in which Trump spoke about women in crude language. And this new report, true or not, only feeds into that narrative, which the campaign is aggressively trying to stop. Heather and Abby?
Yeah, in part, he's blaming this on a coordinated character assassination. So we'll see.
Just 26 days before the election. All right, Garrett Tenney, thank you.
Thanks, Garrett.
You got it.
And WikiLeaks strikes again. Nearly 1,200 hacked emails from inside Hillary Clinton's campaign released, revealing vicious attacks on certain religious and ethnic groups.
Cheryl Casoni from our sister network, Fox Business, here with these details, which just continue to come out.
They do. No kidding. Good morning, guys. Well, the 4th round of emails, a treasure trove for Republicans, appearing to show Hillary Clinton's campaign insulting both Catholics and Hispanics. While urging Clinton to contact Latino lawmakers for support last year, Clinton's campaign chair, John Podesta, titled one email, quote, needy Latinos and one easy call. Then Podesta received an email bashing Catholics and plotting a Catholic spring. Quote, there needs to be a Catholic spring in which Catholics themselves demand the end of a Middle Ages dictatorship and the beginning of a little democracy and respect for gender equality in the Catholic Church. Okay, so Podesta and other Clinton top aides still blaming Russia for the hacks, refusing to verify the emails as authentic, but Donald Trump was quick to pounce. Listen.
The new emails also show members of the Clinton team viciously attacking Catholics and evangelicals. Did you see that? No, the press doesn't want to report that one. That could be election changing. It's just the latest evidence of the hatred that the Clinton campaign has for everyday faithful Americans.
Well, Trump's camp now calling for several of Clinton's top aides to resign over the insulting comments, including her director of communications, Jennifer Palmieri. Ladies, back to you.
Could this race get any uglier?
Well,
Cheryl.
Podesta's Twitter account was hacked for a period of time as well last night.
Thank you, Cheryl. And that brings us to Look Who's Talking. And this morning, former United States Secretary of Education Bill Bennett is saying conservatives should be outraged that their faith is under fire.
What'd she say? The Russians did it, the Catholics did it, the Pope did it? Look, this crowd has been anti-Catholic for a long time. This is leftist anti-Catholicism. These are transatlantic agnostic progressives. They do not believe in things like the authority of the Catholic Church. Now, as a conservative, I worry that the age of Clinton has been with us too long and may last even longer. But I got to tell you, I think the Catholic Church will outlast the Clintons, and I think it will be around when they are long gone. This notion of uprooting thousands of years of Catholic doctrine, we know what this is about. Well, it's the Catholic teaching on marriage, on same-sex, on contraception, and most of all on abortion. They just can't stand that. Catholics, I hope, will take note of this. Their faith is being attacked, their faith is being disparaged, and they should react to it.
Well, let's take you overseas now to a Fox News alert. The U.S. unleashing missile strikes overnight after yet another attack on a Navy destroyer. Tomahawk missiles hitting sites in areas of Yemen controlled by Iran-aligned Houthi forces. The sources of two separate attacks on the USS Mason this week. Retired four-star General Jack Keane says that all of this is an attempt to make the U.S. look weak.
All those provocations in the Gulf that we've been dealing with for the last weeks, missiles being fired near our warships, little gunboats coming out, trying to intimidate the United States. I mean, they know the United States has a far superior Navy than what they have, but they want to humiliate and embarrass the United States.
Pentagon officials say that the U.S. will not tolerate any threats to our ships.
And new developments in the deadly Connecticut plane crash. Investigators now saying this was no accident. Right now, the feds say it looks more like a suicide than terror. The sole survivor detailing a heated argument inside the cockpit just seconds before the plane fell from the sky, exploding in a fiery blaze. At the helm is Faraz Freicht, a Jordanian national who came to the U.S. on a student visa for flight school. The instructor with him tells investigators Freicht was overwhelmed by school and downed the single-engine plane on purpose. And chilling videos posted on his Facebook back in 2015 show Freicht flying over Nigeria Falls and completing a successful landing. There's also this walking into a trap. Officials say the gang member accused of killing two California officers wanted to murder cops.
This individual wanted to kill police officers. He armed himself with a weapon to kill police officers.
Prosecutors say John Felix was wearing body armor and used armor-piercing ammunition when he opened fire on Palm Springs officers Jose Vega and Leslie Zarabeni. She was a brand new mom. So sad. Both were shot through a closed door responding to a domestic disturbance call. Felix now faces the death penalty.
Turning now to some weather news for you. An urgent warning to stay away from water as historic flooding claims more lives. In North Carolina alone, 20 people now dead, 19 of them from drowning. And despite the blue skies, rivers are still rising. They're expected to reach historic levels by today or Saturday. Governor Pat McCrory urging residents as far as 100 miles from the coast to leave their homes immediately with the possibility of dam failure. Roads still impassable, homes and schools completely submerged, serving as reminders of Hurricane Matthew's deadly wrath. The death toll across the U.S. now up to at least 36 people. And some destructive winds and heavy rain already battering Bermuda as the tiny island braces for Hurricane Nicole's impact later today. The storm growing into a major Category 4 with winds up to 130 miles per hour and kicking up. You can see that heavy surf. Take a look at this, the monster hurricane from space. Officials say that there could be up to 8 inches of rain when the storm passes over Bermuda today.
All right, well, the time is now 11 minutes after the hour. Coming up, talking terror, Secretary of State John Kerry's advice when referring to ISIS, lose the word Islamic.
And the topics just announced for round 3 between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. What is on tap for the final debate?
Plus this.
A live shot from Times Square here in New York City. Definitely feeling like fall out here, and feels pretty good. Speaking of being happy, though, lots of people happy that this is almost over. Just 26 days until the election, and a shocking new poll is coming out of Utah this morning. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, they're in a dead heat with 26% each. But the real story? Independent Evan McMullen trailing close behind with 22%. Larry Sabato, director of the Center for Politics, says that this is unprecedented.
About 70% Republican. Ronald Reagan used to get over 70% in Utah. So it's a shock. This is the first poll that shows it being effectively a three-way tie. And you always have questions, particularly when an independent does this well, though there are reasons. He is a Mormon, BYU grad, and clearly the Mormon population is not terribly keen on Donald Trump.
Sabato says Mitt Romney's lack of support for Donald Trump could also be influencing Utah voters. And we are just 6 days until the third and final debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. The topics just revealed, and they include debt and entitlements, immigration, the economy, the Supreme Court, foreign hotspots, and fitness to be president. And you can watch the debate right here next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. We are definitely excited about it here. It's moderated by our very own Chris Wallace, and it is the first time ever that a Fox News anchor will moderate a general election presidential debate.
It's exciting. We'll be watching. All right, Secretary of State John Kerry purposely avoiding the term Islamic when talking about ISIS terrorists.
It's the Islamic State. It's not a state. There's nothing legitimate about it. There's nothing Islamic about it. It's a complete misnomer. It's their title, and we shouldn't use it.
That was Kerry speaking at a tech conference in Silicon Valley. Says ISIS should be called Daesh, or the world's most evil terrorist group. Instead, well, it falls in line with the Obama administration's refusal to say radical Islamic terrorism. And hundreds of FBI and DOJ agents furious over James Comey and Loretta Lynch's decision to let Hillary Clinton off the hook. An anonymous source tells Fox News agents who worked on Clinton's email investigation were shocked and angry when no charges were filed. Many agents believe the decision to clear Clinton came straight from the White House.
And we mentioned Chris Wallace. We need to say happy birthday.
It is his birthday.
Yes, it was his birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday, Chris.
Well, the time now is 17 minutes after the top of the hour. And remember when Bill Clinton said this about Obamacare?
And then the people are out there busting it, sometimes 60 hours a week, wind up with their premiums doubled and their coverage cut in half. It's the craziest thing in the world.
Well, now another Democrat is on board.
Plus? One airline is adding kid-free zones so you never have to fly like that. Is this a good idea? Stick with us. 22 minutes after the hour, we're back with this story. Embattled Wells Fargo CEO John Stump is officially unemployed. He agreed to retire immediately, bowing to pressure in the wake of revelations bank employees created as many as 2 million accounts without customer authorization. He's walking away, though, with $100 million in stock, plus pension and benefits exceeding $24 million. I think we'll be just fine, Heather.
Thanks, Abby. Well, so did you know that October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month? And with what seems like daily stories about hack attacks, what you can do to keep your information safe. Well, Brett Larson with Fox News Headlines 24/7 Sirius XM 115 joins us now with some tips on taming the internet trolls. Is that possible?
You can try your best, and I'm sure they're not going to appreciate us calling them trolls. But good morning. It does feel like, though, we are at war with hackers, but some simple tips can keep you safe. For starters, have you ever opened up Network or Sharing and wondered who all those other computers are? Those are folks who left on file sharing, so turn that off. You may not see something like it at home, but if you're using, say, your laptop in a coffee shop or you're hanging out in a public park with Wi-Fi, shut it down. Phishing scams. Okay, we talk about this a lot. Your bank sends you an urgent email and you need to log into the website to fix some problem. Careful, check the actual actual web address? Does it say yourbank.com or does it say cheapprescriptiondrugs.com/yourbank? The latter is obviously not the site you want to stay on, and you certainly don't want to log in with your actual banking information. When you are on your actual banking site, you see an S after the HTTPS. Check for the S and say yes to it. That is simply letting you know the page is secure and the data shuttling back and forth between your computer and the web is encrypted. You'll see it when you're online shopping at Amazon, even sometimes when you're on Google. Newer web browsers will actually show the address in green or with a green key to let you know you are locked down. And I've used this when traveling, a virtual private network, a VPN. Basically, it's software that keeps your public connection secured. So as your data goes from your computer to the web and to wherever you're going, it actually makes an extra stop between two secured computers. And last, when you're finished with your work, get off of Wi-Fi. The longer it stays on the hotspot, the greater the chances that someone will go snooping around. And snooping they will do. Yeah. It is increasingly easy, but you're smarter. So stay smarter than the internet trolls.
It's just sad we have to deal with this today. Everyone's experienced getting hacking at this point.
Those are some good tips, though. I didn't know the HTTP. Make sure that there's the S there.
Say yes to the S.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brett.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brett. Time is now 25 after the hour. It's time now to glue on this.
Have you ever been on a long flight and have something like this happen to you?
No. Let me take a look.
No.
Hey, come here. If you don't stop screwing around back there, this is what I'm going to do with you.
We've all been there. Well, now one airline wants to make experiences like that a thing of the past.
Indian airline Indigo introducing child-free zones on their flights. So they're banning children 12 and under from 8 rows of seats, including those with extra leg room.
According to the airline, the areas are meant for business travelers who need some quiet, but some people say it is discriminating against children.
So we want to know, what do you think? Is this a good idea, or is the airline being unfair to families?
Send us your comments on Facebook, Twitter, or send an email to Fox Friends First at foxnews.com. We're going to share them later in the show. I bet there's some mixed reactions to that.
We'll get a lot of responses to that one. But we're not done. The time is now 25 minutes after the top of the hour. And two brand new controversies we need to tell you about that are brewing on the campaign trail. New accusations facing Donald Trump as Hillary Clinton deals with yet another document dump. How both campaigns are now responding up next.
Plus, what do Americans fear the most? Well, it's not good news for Hillary Clinton.
And Colonel Sanders gets a makeover again. Just wait until you check out his new look.
Looking good.
It is Thursday, October 13th, and this is a Fox News alert. 2 veteran cops clinging to life after a man armed for battle opens fire.
We got shots fired. I need every officer available to make their way. 136 Gladstone Street, please. I think we have an officer down. Ambulances, please. Okay, we need an ambulance.
You want to stay tuned. Those breaking details just ahead.
And 2 new controversies brewing in the race for the White House. Donald Trump declaring war now on the New York Times. And this is Hillary Clinton's deals with another document dump. First it was Catholics, now her aides caught attacking Hispanics.
Plus, what a save, the teen athletes who rescued the national anthem. Fox and Friends First continues right now.
There is a lot of stuff brewing this morning, a lot of news to get to, but it is still good to be alive, and it is good to be here on this Thursday morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First. I'm Abby Huntsman.
And I'm Heather Childers. I like that song to start the day. It is half past the top of the hour, so let's get right to the race for the White House. The Trump campaign declaring war on the New York Times and threatening to sue.
They're accusing the paper of heading up the biggest coordinated political attack in history.
Garrett Tenney is live for us in Washington with more. Good morning.
Heather and Abby, good morning. Campaign sources tell us that lawsuit against the New York Times is currently being drafted, and they, quote, better have a good lawyer. This comes in response to a new report by the Times in which 2 women claim Trump inappropriately touched them. The first of the 2 alleged incidents took place more than 30 years ago when one of the women claims she was sitting next to Trump on a flight to New York when he raised the armrest and began groping her. The second woman claims she was working as a receptionist at Trump Tower 11 years ago when she met Trump outside an elevator and introduced herself before he kissed her on the cheeks and then on the mouth. Neither of the women reported the alleged incidents to police, and neither has spoken publicly about the incidents until now. Donald Trump vigorously denied that either incident ever took place to the paper, and in a statement, his campaign is portraying this latest report as another example of the media actively targeting Donald Trump, saying, quote, "This entire article is fiction, and for the New York Times to launch a completely false, coordinated character assassination against Mr. Trump on a topic like this is dangerous. To reach back decades in an attempt to smear Mr. Trump trivializes sexual assault, and it sets a new low for where the media is willing to go in its efforts to determine this election." Last night at a rally in Florida, Donald Trump also took aim at the mainstream media for going after him while largely ignoring the latest revelations from the WikiLeaks documents.
These dishonest people, mainstream media, they don't talk about this. They don't talk about this. Now, if I sneeze, if Donald Trump sneezes today, it's a major story.
Now, this latest report from the Times comes, of course, on the heels of that leaked video from Access Hollywood in which Trump spoke crudely about women. And with less than a month to go until the election, this feeds into a narrative that Trump campaign is aggressively working to turn around against Hillary Clinton. Heather and Abby.
It's gotten so ugly.
Seems like leaks about something every day. Thank you so much, Garrett.
You got it.
And speaking of leaks, WikiLeaks strikes again. Nearly 1,200 newly leaked emails from inside Hillary Clinton's campaign showing another vicious attack on Catholics and Latinos. One email showing her top aides bashing the church and plotting a Catholic spring. Here's what it says, quote, "There needs to be a Catholic spring in which Catholics themselves demand the end of a Middle Ages dictatorship and the beginning of a little democracy and respect for gender equality in the Catholic Church." And then, while going after Latino lawmakers for support, Clinton's campaign chair, John Podesta, titled one email, quote, "Needy Latinos and one easy call." Now, Trump's camp calling for the aides involved in the email chains to step down. And the Clinton camp blames Russia for the recent hacks. You may have heard them say that, saying that the country is likely acting in the interests of the Trump campaign. And that brings us to a look at who's talking. Former Navy SEAL and Trump supporter Carl Higbee saying it doesn't matter who leaked it.
The Clinton campaign would love to make this about Russia because it takes the pressure off what the content of the emails is. Look, the fact of the matter is WikiLeaks has dropped bombs on Republicans. They've dropped it on Democrats. They're going to continue to drop this. But what a Hillary Clinton campaign wants to do is take the pressure off of what's in the actual emails. The fact that they're talking about Catholics, the fact that they're talking about all the internal workings of the campaign that are just really negative right now.
Turning now to a Fox News alert, a story we're following very closely this morning. Two Boston cops clinging to life at this hour after a dramatic overnight shootout. And that gunman is now dead. Witnesses describing the scene like a war zone, one capturing what is believed to be the crossfire between police and a suspect that was armed for battle. Jackie Banyans joins us live in studio with the breaking details. Jackie, this is just horrible.
Yeah, good morning, Abby. Well, the city of Boston rallying together overnight after a tense shootout, just heard there in a quiet suburb. Police were called to the scene after some kind of fight between two male roommates. When they got to the house, the unnamed 33-year-old suspect had an assault rifle, a ballistic vest, and unleashed that is a fury of bullets, striking two veteran officers. The standoff putting an entire neighborhood on mandatory lockdown. The shocking scene playing out in brand new video, vivid police audio. Listen to this.
We got shots fired. I need every officer available to make their way. 136 Gladstone Street. Multiple shots. Guys, get us a ammo down here now. Okay, they're pushing, sir.
The two officers, they're in surgery right now after both being shot multiple times. One has been on the force for 12 years, we're told, the other for nearly 3 decades. The police commissioner now thanking everyone for their fellow brothers there in blue for their heroic life-saving actions.
2 of the officers dragged their fellow officers out of the line of fire, so they were in a protected zone, and the officers continued to engage in a gun exchange.
They did a good job of making sure that they were able to
do what they had to do as police officers in the city of Boston, but also the community of East Boston was very supportive of them.
9 additional officers are being treated for both minor injuries and traumatic emotional stress. Police are still working to uncover a motive. Abby, Heather.
All right, thank you, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie.
Story.
Yeah.
And now to a massive manhunt underway in Baltimore after yet another attack on police.
Hey, on the body, was he shot? Out of here. Get us medic down here.
Officials say one officer was shot in the wrist just moments after stopping 2 carjacking suspects.
He's alert and conscious. He's up speaking. Matter of fact, his district commander described him as actually being himself, and that's a positive.
One of the suspects opening fire before both abandoned the car and took off running. Luckily, no one else was hurt.
And we have some new developments to tell you about. In the deadly Connecticut plane crash, investigators now saying that this was no accident. Right now, the feds say that it looks more like a suicide, though, than terror. The sole survivor detailing a heated argument inside the cockpit just seconds before the plane fell from the sky, exploding into this fiery blaze. At the helm, Faris Freicht. He's a Jordanian national who came to the U.S. on a student visa for flight school. The instructor with him tells investigators that Freicht was overwhelmed by school and downed the single-engine plane on purpose. Historic flooding claiming more lives in North Carolina. 20 people now dead there, 19 of them from drowning. Rivers are still rising and expected to reach historic levels by today. Helicopters continue to rescue people from their roofs in the badly damaged town of Lumberton.
So sad. Well, a high school volleyball player takes matters into her own hands when issues with the audio system stopped the national anthem from playing.
Senior Marina Garcia belting out the anthem in a gym full of people in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, her beautiful performance met with cheers and even tears from people in the crowd.
We like seeing stories like that involving the national anthem.
I think we need that today.
That's a good one. Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour. And we have a Fox Business alert for you. A problem on some cars that could kill you.
That's right. And now a massive recall is underway. What you need to know next.
And bucking the trend, what a major mall operator is doing this Thanksgiving.
Plus, this guy needed to get away from his wife so bad, he landed up in jail.
But first, a look at your weather across the country.
43 minutes after the hour. Remember when Bill Clinton called Obamacare crazy?
Well, now another Democrat is lashing out at the plan, saying it's too expensive.
I'm going to try to pass the buck here, but the reality is the Affordable Care Act is no longer affordable.
That is Minnesota Governor Mark Dayton, a former Obamacare supporter, is now calling for sweeping changes to the president's namesake health plan.
Dayton says that premiums are about to skyrocket by more than 50%, and that's for thousands of people in Minnesota alone.
And now to a Fox Business alert. Thousands of cars being recalled over faulty brakes, and the problem, it could be deadly.
Yeah, don't want faulty brakes. Cheryl Casoni from our sister network, Fox Business, here with some more details we need to know. Good morning, Cheryl.
Yeah, good morning, guys. And this is bad news for Toyota and for Prius owners as well. 340,000 Priuses are being recalled because of faulty brake problems with Toyota. There are reports of crashes and injuries and deaths to Toyota, but they won't share any more specifics of that. 94,000 of these recalls are going to be right here in North America. It's a hatchback. The cars were made between August 2015 and September of 2016.
A big part of the Thanksgiving weekend is shopping. You know, they always have sales that go on, and you're with your family, but apparently more stores are closing.
Yeah, remember we were talking about this last week, guys. There seems to be a backlash and kind of a turn in this whole let's open on Thanksgiving Day thing, in particular because many companies are saying, look, we want to give our employees the day off to be with their families. Well, now CBL Associates, they own 73 malls across the country. We've got a map to show you. They're going to be closing all of their malls on Thanksgiving Day. Now, the external tenants, the restaurants that have like a an outside door, if you will. They can open if they want. But this company's saying, nope, we're not going to open until 6 a.m. on Black Friday. They're kind of going backwards a little bit. You know, also, these companies you're seeing on your screen, other companies, retail stores that are saying, we're going to give our folks the day off. Marshall's, TJ Maxx, and then I told you last week about Staples and BJ's as well. They have already said that they're going to stay closed on Thanksgiving Day.
Someone always open. Fox News. We'll be here for you.
We'll be here.
And Starbucks also is pretty much always open. Explain to me, please, this new coffee drink.
Heather, I have video for you. This is even better. Oh, take a look at this. So they've given out this instructional video. This is a coffee plus beer drink they're going to be unveiling. It's brand new. They're calling it a cocktail, really. It's on their evenings menu. It's an espresso cloud IPA. And basically, it's almost like a Boilermaker. I hate to, that's the best way you can describe it. They show how they make it, but it's espresso on the side, and then it's got beer, and they're showing how they make it. I think it looks really good, actually.
I don't know.
Did you say they have an evening menu?
Yeah.
They started serving alcohol.
They are serving
alcohol. Is a depressant, and then coffee picks you up, so you'd be very confused.
And then after this drink, you can go to KFC and take a look at the new Colonel Sanders, who looks pretty good, I have to say.
This is why we all like each other. Okay, so KFC, ladies, meet Hot Colonel. This is Nashville Hot Colonel. They have once again made a new character, and it's a new actor. You may know him. He's from Mad Men. His name is Vincent Carthisel. Anyway, he played Pete Campbell on Mad Men. I don't know if you guys watched that show. Anyway, he's the new Colonel for KFC. It was Daryl Hammond, it was Norm Macdonald, but now he is the new guy, and they're basically saying that they want to give a real sexy kind of Colonel out to the American viewing public. So you're welcome, ladies.
No, I don't like that one. I don't like that one. I like the old traditional Colonel Sanders.
The older guy?
The not so good looking version?
I like that one. You know, right there. That's my thing. Now, he's sexy.
Okay. On that note, Cheryl, good to see you.
So let's check in with Brian Kilmeade, speaking of sexy, to see what is coming up on Fox and Friends. And you actually have somebody we all used to love.
Yeah, we all have that teenage crush, you know, Brian. For me, it was Kirk Cameron, and I hear he's on the show today. I might just be, like, lurking around the green room to find him.
Yeah, he's around. And what about, let's let everyone, why don't you tweet us? Tell us your crush, and if you want to meet it. For many people, for many women in my generation, it was David Cassidy of the Partridge Family, including Ian behind camera one has told me that in confidence. He told me not to tell it on our show, but he didn't say anything about your show. So, let me just tell you other people besides Kirk Cameron we have coming up. We got Ben Carson, Taya Kyle, Judge Alex Ferreira, and maybe the best analyst in the business today, Ed Rollins, will be here, and the huge story about NBC and the true story behind the scenes, what happened with Billy Bush, and how long ago they actually had that tape before they let it erupt on Friday. Caused a bit of a firestorm. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. I think a lot more to that story, Brian.
Maybe.
Some strategic timing, I think is what you call that, strategic timing. Thank you, Brian.
See you soon. All right, when we come back, put the spoon down and forget the cereal. The new study that says you should be eating chocolate cake for breakfast is the best story I've read all day.
Chocolate cake, Starbucks, Colonel Chicken. Welcome back to Fox and Friends. First this morning, a massive voter fraud investigation is underway into the group called the Indiana Voter Registration Project. They're accused of turning in phony names, false addresses, and misleading information on applications. The Indiana Secretary of State worries that this could discourage people from voting.
I want every voter in the state of Indiana to know that the vote that they cast will be counted and it won't be canceled out by someone committing fraud.
Officials say to be safe, voters should register themselves instead of going through a voter registration group. Well, all of America might be freaking out over that creepy clown craze we told you about right now, but that doesn't even break the top 10 of the country's top fears. Look at this. According to a Chapman University survey, Americans are most afraid of corrupt government officials, followed by terror attacks and running out of money for the future. And some bad news for Democrats. Obamacare is our country's 10th biggest fear.
I don't know. Clowns are still pretty creepy. So we know catching cancer early is proven to save lives, but now a new study says some of that technology may do more harm than good. Scientists at Dartmouth say mammograms often lead to unnecessary treatments like radiation and chemo, and those side effects are more destructive than letting a small non-cancerous tumor just be. However, scientists still agree people should start getting regular mammograms when they turn 50. And this is my favorite story of the day. You may want to put down that breakfast shake and pick up a piece of chocolate. That's right, a new study shows eating chocolate cake in the morning could actually help you lose weight. But before you stop drinking your kale juice, be warned, not all cakes make the cut. Researchers say a low-sugar, dark chocolate cake is best since cocoa helps improve memory, reasoning, and focus. Eating cake in the morning is the best time because that is when our metabolisms are most active. And I'm just sad we don't have a cake on set this morning.
Depends on what morning means for you. For us, it's, what, 2 a.m.?
That's right. I'll have chocolate cake at 2 a.m.
Okay. Well, the time now is about 8 minutes until the top of the hour. In kid-free zones, we told you about this, the airline designating areas where children cannot go. Is it a good idea? Your email's pouring in on this one.
And can your dog do this? Have this pooch learn how to do the laundry. My dog certainly can't do that, although it looks like my dog.
Yeah, clever.
That is the cutest thing.
Clever dog.
Now, before the top of the hour, before you leave the house, here is what is happening today. 2 Boston cops clinging to life at this hour after a dramatic shootout in a quiet suburb overnight. That gunman killed by police in the firefight. And the man accused of New Jersey and New York City bombings makes his first court appearance today. Ahmad Khan Rahami will appear via a video link in court. And Donald Trump is hitting the swing states today. He will be in Florida first, then Ohio. Meantime, Hillary Clinton is spending her time on the West Coast, fundraising in San Francisco, and then taping an episode of Ellen in L.A.
Time now for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Up first, the good. Meet Harlow, the pup who can actually help with laundry.
Basket. Good laundry. Basket. Good girl, laundry.
Good girl. Harlow training to be a service dog in Florida, and part of her training includes learning to do the laundry. And now the bad, a husband faking his own kidnapping at gunpoint just to get away from his wife and party with some friends. Yes, he had 2 of his friends put on masks, drag him from his Texas home. They even had guns. Police spent the whole night looking for him. And the ugly, if you wanted to be a sexy version of Ken Bone, because who doesn't, you're out of luck. The Halloween costume made by the company Yandy sold out of the $100 outfit within hours.
That's hysterical.
Yeah.
And that dog. Thank you.
I like that one.
Time now for your brew on this. Responses. Ever been on a flight with a kid kicking your seat the entire time? Well, one airline wants to make that a thing of the past.
So we asked if you think airlines introducing child-free zones on flights is a good idea, or is the airline being unfair to families?
Susan on Facebook says, I think it's a great idea. It doesn't hurt anyone. It makes for a more relaxing trip for adults.
And Christine says, coming from a mother with a child on the autism spectrum, I find this disturbing. Not all children are brats or misbehaving on purpose.
And Albert on Twitter says, kids shouldn't be banned from an entire flight, just one section. It's the same concept as alcohol-free section and sports stadiums.
Yeah, we appreciate everyone responding.
Fox and Friends starts right now. Have a good day.
Have a great day. Bye.
Good morning on this Thursday. It's October 13th, 2016. I'm Ainsley Earhart, and we start with this, a Fox News alert. 2 Boston cops clinging to life this morning after being ambushed and then shot multiple times.
We got shots fired. I need every officer available to make their way. 136 Gladstone Street, please. 12, I think we have an officer down. Ambulances, please. Okay, we need an ambulance.
That suspect said to be armed for battle. The breaking details straight ahead.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump declares war, accusing the media of conspiring with the Clinton campaign in what he's calling the greatest coordinated political attack in history. We're live at Trump Tower right now.
Yup, and brand new Hillary Clinton emails revealing her campaign's disdain for not just Catholics, but Southerners and now Latinos. Who do they like? Who isn't deplorable? Let me just remind you, you're not, because your mornings are better because you chose to be with friends.
Good morning. It's Thursday. You have
It's her favorite day of the week.
It really is not. I like a Friday. Fridays are fun.
Right. No, I think
for some reason, y'all think Thursdays are my favorite just because I get excited
the
about the
excitement
weekend.
level is about right there.
You know why, Steve?
What are you seeing tomorrow?
She did what we used to do, and
What's
she
that?
goes clubbing on Thursdays. Thursday is the night out to sit behind the rope line. Exactly. Right.
Right. That's
What song is sure that is to? Something with a heavy
It's
beat.
Thirsty Thursday.
Exactly.
at
That's
our
my
house.
point. I don't know. I don't go clubbing.
It's like you're being patted down. You know, it's like it's almost. Well, I just know if you just use the name, I'm Ainsley Earhart, I don't have to wait on the line, right? You go right in.
That's something. Okay, when you move up north, you learn, they say up here, wait online. Down south, it's you wait in line.
Oh, really?
When I moved up here, I'm like, wait online? What do you mean online? There's like a line on the ground?
Wow.
The computer, online.
It's amazing.
Right.
Exactly
It's amazing our nation stayed together with these differences.
I know, right?
It's crazy.
It's a melting pot. Well, I tell you what, 2 minutes after the top of the hour, another slow news day. So let's get right to the race to the White House. With just 26 days before the election, the Trump campaign is declaring war on the New York Times.
Yeah, they're now threatening to sue, accusing the paper of heading up the biggest coordinated political attack in history.
And Peter Ducey is live right in front of Trump Tower here in New York City with more for you. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning. Donald Trump has denied ever touching anyone the way that he described in that now infamous recording of a conversation with Billy Bush more than a decade ago. But now two women have come forward to say that he did. One alleges that it happened here at Trump Tower in 2005. Another alleges that it happened in the first-class cabin of an airplane more than 3 decades ago. She describes that flight to the New York Times like this, quote, "He was like an octopus. His hands were everywhere." Now, it's important to point out there were never any police reports filed after either incident, and there are no witnesses that we know of because there were no official records of either. And a senior Trump campaign source tells Fox News the GOP nominee is considering drafting a lawsuit against the Times for publishing this story. The campaign also considers the piece a distraction designed to help hide bad news about Hillary Clinton, saying in part that, quote, "The Times story buries the pro-Clinton financial and social media activity on behalf of Hillary Clinton's candidacy, reinforcing that this truly is nothing more than a political attack. This is a sad day for the Times." Now, just before this news broke last night, the big story was that Trump was continuing his very public criticism of the House Speaker Paul Ryan.
Wouldn't you think that Paul Ryan would call and say, "Good going," in front of just about the largest audience for a second night debate in the history of the country? So, you know, you'd think that they'd say, "Great going, Don. Let's go. Let's beat this crook. She's a crook. Let's beat her. We got to stop it." No, he doesn't do that. There's a whole deal going on there. So, I mean, you know, there's a whole deal going on. We're going to figure it out. I always figure things out. But there's a whole sinister deal going on.
Later on today, Trump has events in Florida and Ohio, so we expect to hear a lot more about everything that's going on just a few hours from right now. Back to you.
And a lot is going on. All right, Peter, over on Fifth Avenue. Thank you.
Is there anything more destructive that he could do to the Republican Party than to continue to go after Paul Ryan? I mean, that's the stupidest thing that he could be doing right now.
Well,
I mean, we'll just break up the party. If somebody disavows you, okay, he's going to vote for him, as you guys said a couple of days ago. He's still going to vote for him, but he's not going to campaign with him. He never planned on campaigning with him except for that Friday. Why divide the ticket? You got so many other targets.
Listen, what got him noticed a year ago was he was anti-establishment, and if the establishment is not going to stand with Donald Trump, he's going to try to do it without him.
Yeah.
So, but why destroy the people that aren't trying to, in your own party, that aren't standing with you? He's not, Paul Ryan's not out against him.
Paul Ryan is not helping him. And what we've heard from the campaign and Newt Gingrich as well is if you're not going to support him completely, then really what you're doing is supporting Hillary Clinton. So a vote not for Donald Trump is a vote for Hillary Clinton.
So you think it's a good move?
Listen, I'm not a strategist. All I know is I get what he's doing. Paul Ryan, you know, they're in a pickle. You got the guy who runs RNC, Reince Priebus, and he has said, you know, we're endorsing him. I'm going to campaign for him and all that other stuff. But then you've got the leader in the House saying, not so much. It's just mixed political signals.
Right now, Donald Trump is doing worse than 2008 when McCain lost all those seats and they lost the House.
All right, well, in other news, we are learning this morning that the execs over at NBC, they knew about that tape with Billy Bush and Donald Trump on the bus. They knew about it for months, and they plotted to release that when it was going to have maximum impact, which was 2 days before the second debate.
Right. The plan was over at Access Hollywood, we're going to release the tape on Friday. What was on the news on Friday? Hurricane Matthew. So what they decided was they were not going to release it on Friday. They were going to release it on Monday. Somebody across the street didn't like that, and so they leaked it to the Washington Post. What's curious about it is, though, while the NBC says we only knew about the tape for a week, they knew about it for months and maybe even years. And what they had planned to do was release the audio tape, but a sanitized version where they took the bad stuff, apparently the Billy Bush said, take that out and just make Donald Trump look bad.
Because Billy
drop
Bush
it
works
just
for
before
them.
the debate.
Exactly.
So Billy Bush is sidelined now. Most people think he's basically fired because for actually no reason. And if you compare it to where they protected Brian Williams and basically what they're doing to Billy Bush about a tape from 11 years ago, which if this is TMZ reporting. If TMZ is right, they not only knew about this tape, they hired him knowing about the tape. So they pull him out of Access Hollywood. It goes 3,000 miles to do the 9 o'clock show on the Today Show. And then this tape emerges, which all we know, he could have even tipped it off. I'm just wondering if the thing that put him over the top was his voicemail message, because he said, you know, Billy Bush can't get to the phone right now, but he's out making America great again. Can you imagine if he said Billy Bush can't get to the phone right now, he must be with her? Maybe he'd still have his job.
All right.
Well, NBC looks terrible because they were going to edit some videotape to make Donald Trump look bad. It sounds like Billy Bush may actually sue NBC because they knew it was on the tape, and they knew the tape was out there for a while.
Well, executives,
so he has
executives over there are saying they only knew about it for a week or two, but Billy Bush was bragging about it apparently at the Olympics.
Yeah.
So that was months ago.
In Rio.
To the executives, they tracked down the tape, looked at the tape, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is...
But maybe Donald Trump does have a point. There is the most cohesive, coordinated attack on any political candidate ever.
Meantime, yesterday we told you about, and this is from WikiLeaks, how members of Hillary Rodham Clinton's campaign have been mocking Catholics. And now, as it turns out, with the latest batch of emails, we're seeing that not only do they mock Catholics, but essentially they're saying, you know, this religion, we got to help them come out of the dark ages.
We've got to change this religion that's been around for thousands of years. This is an email from Sandy Newman. This was back in 2012. There needs to be a Catholic spring in which Catholics themselves demand the end of a Middle Ages dictatorship and the beginning of a little democracy and respect for gender equality in the Catholic Church. I have not thought at all about how one would plant the seeds of the revolution or who would plant them. Just wondering.
Right. You think your plate would be full just trying to get the nomination and winning the presidency. You also want to overthrow and reform the Catholic Church. Let's go over to the Vatican and see what we can do. So John Podesta and this email response on February 11th, this is back in 2012, and by the way, he's been raided. We created Catholics in Alliance for the Common Good to organize for a moment like this, but I think it lacks the leadership to do so right now. Likewise, Catholics United, like most spring movements, I think this one will have to be bottom up. I'll discuss with Tara. Meanwhile, Bill Bennett, who was our first education president, a deep thinker, wrote books on virtue, heard this, was smart enough to go on Megyn Kelly last night. Here's what he said about it.
This crowd has been anti-Catholic for a long time. This is leftist anti-Catholicism. These are transatlantic agnostic progressives. They do not believe in things like the authority of the Catholic Church. Now, as a conservative, I worry that the age of Clinton has been with us too long and may last even longer. But I got to tell you, I think the Catholic Church will outlast the Clintons, and I think it will be around when they are long gone. This notion of uprooting thousands of years of Catholic doctrine, we know what this is about. Well, it's the Catholic teaching on marriage, on same-sex, on contraception, and most of all on abortion. They just can't stand that. Catholics, I hope, will take note of this. Their faith is being attacked, their faith is being disparaged, and they should react to it.
He's got some great points regarding why the Democrats would like to see the Catholic Church change so that, you know, they don't have to be pro-abortion while the Catholic Church is anti-abortion. Jim Palmieri, who we told you about yesterday, was mocking a number of Catholics with some of the things she said, was asked about on the plane, said, I don't recognize that email. Not that it was true.
Oh, I don't
or
recognize
not.
it.
I don't recognize it. Besides, it's from the Russians.
Right.
So that's their defense. It's from the Russians. It could be doctored, and I don't recognize that.
Brian, do you think the Catholic Church will be around longer than the Clintons?
How old is Chelsea? I'm not sure. And then we don't know. So that's a good point. I would say a couple of things. If you're I think this country's made up of 28% of Catholics. How do you feel?
Right.
About who you
Good
might
question.
be electing. Number two is that if you talk about religions that need to get out of the Middle Ages, is Catholicism the thing that springs into your mind? Or as Tucker Carlson said last night, can you imagine if this email said something about Muslims?
Right.
There would be an immediate press conference by Barack Obama, and John Kerry would say something just to praise the Muslim religion.
So anyway, we thought we'd just bring you the latest from the WikiLeakers. In the meantime, 11 minutes after the top of the hour, and Heather's got some more news.
I certainly do. And we have a Fox News alert right now to start out with on a very busy news day. At this hour, 2 veteran police officers are in surgery, and they are clinging to life after a dramatic shootout overnight in Boston. The gunman is now dead. Witnesses describing the scene like a war zone. One capturing on video the crossfire between police and the suspect they say was armed for battle. Well, that scene also playing out in brand new, vivid police audio. Listen.
We got shots fired. I need every officer available to make their way. 136 Gladstone Street. Multiple shots. Guys, get us some ammo down here now. Okay, they're pushing, sir.
Well, police were called to a scene after a fight between 2 male roommates. When they arrived at the house, the unnamed 33-year-old suspect had a semi-automatic rifle, a ballistic vest, and then unleashed a fury of bullets. 9 officers are now being treated for minor injuries and emotional stress. Police are still working to uncover a motive. We will bring you the latest on the condition of those police officers as we learn it. In the meantime, overnight, a stampede of anti-police protesters clashing with riot police in Oregon. They were outraged over a move to give those police officers a pay raise. Wow, those protesters shutting down Portland City Hall, throwing things at officers, hurting at least one of them. Police were forced to use pepper spray. The department says 10 people were arrested overnight. And those are your headlines. I'll see you back here in just a little bit. Big news coming out about law enforcement.
Law enforcement under attack every way.
There you go. All right, Heather, thank you. Coming up on this Thursday, good news for a VA worker fired for lies and abuse. She's just been rehired. Does that sound like reform to you?
And a high school volleyball player wasn't about to let some technical difficulties stop the national anthem. Another scandal rocking the VA. Shocker. This time, a federal worker fired from a Chicago VA facility for lying and for abusing patients. Well, now that person has been rehired at the Phoenix VA. So how can something like that happen? Here to react is VA whistleblower Brandon Coleman. Hey, good to see you, Brandon.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, last week you were on talking about one scandal. We're bringing you back this week because there's this new scandal. Why in the world would someone who got fired from one VA hospital be sent to the Phoenix VA hospital and employed again?
Yeah, of all places, ground zero.
Right.
Our bad apple of the day is named Dolores Judd, who was fired for cause, the final straw being in Chicago when an elderly female veteran asked her point blank, can you please print out a list of my upcoming appointments? And Dolores Judd said, no, that's not my job. So they fire her, but what your viewers may not know is there's something called a non-competitive appointment. This is a loophole within the federal government in which a bad apple such as Dolores Judd would get preference over a veteran or a civilian employee off the street applying for their first federal job. So she lands in, of all places, ground zero, my hometown, Phoenix, Arizona, and they put her in charge of the Choice Program, which was signed into law by President Obama in 2014 for veterans waiting more than 30 days for care or living more than 40 miles away. So the irony of the story here is we take a lady that refuses to help a veteran in a customer service type position and put her in a position where veterans are depending on her because they're already frustrated with the broken system.
So the Choice Program that she's over now, if you've been on the waiting list for more than 30 days, you can go and choose another doctor. Is that how it works?
It's how it's supposed to work. However, the VA's done everything they can to sabotage the program, and I've been on your station many times talking about veterans being sent to collections and doctors not getting paid and the frustration with the choice program overall. And now Dolores Judd is here in Phoenix running the program for us.
Brandon, it is the worst performing program at the VA. This is a statement from the Phoenix VA about hiring her. The hiring process regarding Dolores Judd that took place this summer is regrettable and not as thorough as it should have been. All right, so they're admitting it. What are they going to do about it?
They've done this before. They admit the tiniest bit of fault, but then they act like there's nothing else to see here. Please move forward. And then it dies down in the media and nothing gets done.
Brandon, why are you coming out? You work there. Why would you come out and criticize this place?
Because it's a cesspool. It's the worst example of VA healthcare in the nation. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. This is an American issue. Hillary Clinton came out and said that veterans overall are satisfied with their care, but I would challenge Mrs. Clinton and tell her that dead veterans can't talk. They can't fill out surveys. Something needs to change.
All right. Well, thank you for being a whistleblower and standing up for our veterans. We appreciate that. Have a good one. The mainstream media can't get enough of Donald Trump's hot mic moment, but are they giving equal treatment to Hillary's remarks, calling Trump supporters deplorable and Bernie supporters basement-dwelling baristas? A fair and balanced debate on mainstream media bias coming up next. Brian likes that. And it's happened again. A refurbished Samsung phone erupts into flames, and this time it's caught on tape. Wait until you hear how Samsung is responding this time.
All right, a quick look at some headlines on this Thursday morning. First up, the Syrian migrant turned ISIS terrorist who planned to bomb a major German airport has killed himself in jail. Jabbar al-Bakr hanging himself inside his cell. He was arrested Monday after eluding authorities for 3 days. While he was on the run, he was recognized by locals at a train station who made a citizen-style arrest. And the man accused of planting bombs in New York and New Jersey expected to make his first court appearance later today. Ahmad Rahami is accused of setting off a bomb in the Chelsea district of New York, hurting dozens of people, and another bomb along the route of a Marine Corps run down the Jersey shore. He faces 5 counts of attempted murder and terrorism charges. All right, Brian.
All right, Steve, the Clintons continuing to insult voters on a daily basis.
They're children of the Great Recession, and they are living in their parents' basement.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
The other guy's base is what I grew up in. You know, I'm basically your standard redneck.
Okay, and that's just the ones on audio, let alone the email. So what does the mainstream media choose to focus on?
Declares war.
Isn't it really sad that we don't have stronger leadership on both sides?
28 days out, the Republican nominee turns on Republicans.
Trump is fully armed to strike at every institution of American democracy.
Along with all those accusers who say that he did inappropriate things, female accusers did inappropriate things with him. Here to weigh in is Ying Ma, the former policy director to Ben Carson, and Jessica Tarlov is a Democratic pollster. So I guess the first thing that pops out is the velocity of stories coming out. But Ying, first off, do you notice an inequity in the way this stuff is covered?
Good morning, Brian. Well, I think the problem is that the mainstream media not only does not know how to exercise objectivity, it has no shame. And as we've discovered from recent WikiLeaks emails, the Hillary Clinton campaign is colluding with the mainstream media. We've got everyone from CNBC to New York Times to CNN. And so there really is no shame in how the mainstream media is trying to take down Donald Trump and trying to promote their pet candidate, Hillary Clinton.
Jessica, have you noticed the imbalance?
I mean, yeah, I think that there is a slight imbalance, but I would counter that by saying that when the deplorables comment came out, it led every single network. We talked about it all the time. It was on CNN, MSNBC. The redneck comment, he also lumped himself into that category, but you shouldn't use language like that. And there's a lot in the emails that I don't like. I don't want any groups to be disparaged. And though I know that politics is a dirty business and you do have to talk about people of special interest, some of the language went too far. But the idea that the media is doing something wrong by covering hearing this rolling stream of sex assault cases or accusations, I think is ridiculous. The idea that you're going to be able to push this WikiLeaks narrative against this backdrop. I mean, it was 6 women overnight. Are we at 11 total right now? And Donald Trump can say he's going to sue the New York Times all that you want. This is the narrative now. And I don't know if he should have been vetted better or what, but this is what the election is going to be about.
Or for some reason, are these stories held back? As TMZ's reporting, the NBC tape was held back for the right time, right before the debate or right after the debate, when that could have come out a lot earlier, when it could have got buried in the summer. The New York Times is covering all these women. Did they just now have this revelation?
Well, they did say that, but then when they saw him in the second debate say that he had never assaulted anyone,
that was one woman.
That's what, I think it was 2 of them. But either way, yes, things get held back for the right time, and the Clinton campaign is very smart. They know these things, and there was the joke that I heard someone say, you know, imagine what she'd release if she had been 5 points down.